Hello students. Now today we learn about this aggregate supply. Okay, we learn about what does this concept means. Okay, before that we learned about the aggregate demand and what are the components of aggregate demand. Now let us move on to this aggregate supply. So what is aggregate supply? Aggregate, I told you that this means total. Okay, so total of what? So we can say that it is the value of goods and services which all the producers are planning planning this word is very important to produce in a fiscal year. Okay, so what does this mean? It is the value of goods and services which all the producers are planning to produce in the fiscal year. Okay, so it is never like actual production or the output level, it is a planned production level. Estimating this demand, when the demand is estimated by these producers, then according to it, all the producers, all these firms, they plan to produce. They also set their planning production, that how much they will have to produce considering the aggregate demand. So that's why I am writing here planning producer which are planning to produce. Okay, so they are planning, it is never actual produce or the output. Okay, now this is the definition of aggregate supply. Now after this, the schedule of aggregate supply. The schedule will be similar which we were using in aggregate demand. So how it was, why we will take, why is what, income. Okay, income, then we'll take consumption, then saving. Okay, now at zero level of income, I told you there will be some consumption in the economy. It will be called as autonomous consumption. I hope you remember. Now what I told you, that I'm going to increase every time the income by 100, 100, 200, 300 and 400. Fine. Now, this consumption, when you increase, you will be increasing at a lesser rate. Don't increase it by a higher rate. Like if you are increasing this income by 100, don't increase consumption by 120 or 140 like that. So I'm increasing it by only 80. So if you increase it by 80, it will be 120, 200, 280, and after that 360. Okay. Now what is saving? Here I told you that while calculating this aggregate supply, you need to calculate this aggregate supply over here. So aggregate supply is nothing but it will be equal to your income, because Keynes in this theory of his, he told that this income and consumption will be identical to each other. He said that when the production will be done, so that production which will be produced, it will be done only by giving employment to the people. So when the people will be employed in the company, the income will be generated and that same income will be spent on the goods and services. So he said that the supply creates its own demand. So here according to him, this aggregate supply and income are identical to each other. So here you'll have to remember aggregate supply is nothing but aggregate supply will be C plus L, because this supply, when you say this aggregate supply, okay, so aggregate supply, when you are producing something, you cannot produce anything without giving employment to the people. You have to give employment. So can I say like this, that when you supply or produce, it is done by giving employment to people. Okay, it is being done by giving employment to the people. Then when you give employment, what happens? Because of that, income is generated. What is income? Income is defined by Y. So supply creates its own demand. This was the saying of Sir John Keynes. Okay, now let us rub it. So just remember, when this Y And this AS, when supply is creating its own demand, okay, because when you supply, income is generated, and income is either spent or consumed. इनकम क्या होती है, या तो कंज्यूम होगी या सेव होगी. सो इट इज हैविंग जस्ट टू कंपोनेंट्स, कंजम्पशन एंड सेविंग. सो इनकम का क्या होगा, आइदर इट विल बी कंज्यूम्ड और सेव्ड इन द इकोनॉमी. सो सी प्लस एड्स विल बी योर aggregate supply. Fine, let us calculate this first. What is saving? You are earning nothing, you are earning zero, but your consumption is 40. So at zero level of income, 40 is your consumption. That means what? You're taking out that money from your saving. So write it as minus 40. Okay, similarly here it will be minus 20. Here it will be 0. Okay, then here it will be 20, and here it is going to be 40. Okay, now how I'm calculating it? If you're earning here 100, but your consumption is more, that is why you have to take it from your saving. That is why it is in minus 20. Now what we do? We will add this C plus S, okay, to calculate this aggregate supply. So 40 and 40 will be 0, then 100, 120 and minus 20, it is going to be 100, then 200 and 0, add it, 200, 280 and 20, how much? 300, and 400 and 360, sorry, 360 and 40, this is going to be your 400. Okay, so you can say that this y and this as are equal, 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, and here also you can say the same figures are there. Therefore can I say that y is nothing but is equal to as per this, or I can say y is equal to cs. Okay, I can say that y is equal to cs or y is equal to as. Now what will be the diagram and how it will be made? See, the diagram will be somehow like this. On x-axis and y-axis, you'll have to make a 45-degree angle line, 45-degree angle line, and write it here, y is equal to as. You'll have to write y is equal to as over here. Okay, now here this y-axis, it will tell you about aggregate supply. This line tells you about aggregate supply, and this line is telling you what? This is showing your income, or output level, or oblique employment. Okay, output, employment, income. So all these things are nothing but, in this theory of income and employment of client, you will have to write these three things in your diagram. Okay, because we want to show that income is nothing but output, and output cannot be done without giving employment. So when you produce, you generate income. That was the saying of this kinds. So here we at zero level of income, aggregate supply was 0. At y, when y was 100, aggregate supply was 100. When y was, or income was 200, yeah, aggregate supply was 200. So you can see at 300, 300, 400, 400. So they are identical in nature, and this was the saying of Sir John Keynes. Okay, so what will be the diagram when it is starting at 0, 0, 0, 0? So the point will start from here. Then it will move on like this. It will be an equality. So here 100, 100. So I will write 100 over here, 100 over here, then 200 over here, then 200 over here, then maybe 300 over here, 300 over here, like that. So it is a 45-degree line of reference. Okay, it is also called, but this line is an imaginary line, and your aggregate demand, it will cut this line somewhere, and the line where that aggregate demand line cuts it, that particular point will decide the equilibrium level of the economy. Okay, so just note it down. Thank you.